Hey there, you ready to dive into some Burning Man drama?
Always.
Today we're wading into the best and maybe messiest debates happening right now, all courtesy of Reddit.
Oh, Reddit. The
Oh.
gift that keeps on giving.
It is. It's like we're huddled around this virtual campfire,
Mhm.
listening in on thousands of burners hashing out all the latest dramas, dilemmas, burning questions.
It's true. It's that direct line to what's got people fired up this year, what's got them talking around those real campfires.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our first treasure chest,
Mhm.
a seemingly innocent photo of a burner
Right.
relieving himself on the playa.
Oh, classic.
Right. And this sparked a surprisingly heated debate about the good old leave no trace principle. You'd think the line would be clear, right?
Well, on the surface, yeah.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating here is how this seemingly simple act exposed a deeper tension within Burning Man culture. This whole balance between radical self-reliance and communal responsibility. We see it echo throughout a lot of these threads, actually.
Totally. I mean, some folks were like, hey, peeing on the playa. It's like a rite of passage,
Yeah.
especially late at night when those porta potties feel miles away.
Oh, tell me about it.
And they're like, it's natural. The playa is enormous. It all just evaporates anyway.
Right, it's just pee argument.
Yeah. But then you have the counter argument, which is even a single act multiplied by tens of thousands of attendees, that's got to have an environmental impact.
It's true. Leave no trace isn't just a catchy phrase. It's vital to protecting this delicate ecosystem. Plus, it's about respecting the space and those who come after you.
Respecting the space and each other.
Exactly.
It's like the tragedy of the commons.
Yeah.
Even if one person's impact is small, it all adds up.
Right, and some burners got really real talking about the logistics of it all. Imagine stumbling through a whiteout.
That's a sudden blinding dust storm, by the way, for those who haven't experienced the joy.
Right, thank you for that. So you're stumbling through a whiteout desperate for relief.
Not the time to be searching for a porta potty.
Not at all. And as one burner put it bluntly, not everyone has the bladder of a camel. Demanding they do ignores basic human biology.
And it sparked this wave of hilarious, if slightly horrifying hypotheticals in the thread. Like this image of a giant, inescapable pee pool formed from years of Burning Man. No thank you.
Oh my God.
But amidst the jokes came some genuinely helpful tips from seasoned burners.
I always gotta love that Burning Man ingenuity.
Apparently, flagging your business with a construction cone for later cleanup is a thing.
Okay, that's actually smart.
Right. And we saw people talking about using glow sticks to create makeshift bathroom zones, packing pee bottles.
It's a reminder that even bodily functions can spark innovation out here.
It's classic Burning Man, finding humor and workarounds even when faced with, well, the call of nature.
It's all part of the experience, I guess.
But the takeaway was clear. If you must go on the playa, it's an emergency-only situation. Do it far from camps, soak up what you can, and for everyone's sake, be discreet about it.
Words to live by at Burning Man.
For sure. Speaking of navigating the playa, our next stop takes us from puddles of questionable origin to the curiously disappearing street signs.
Oh no, the missing street signs. This is a big one.
It is. Those iconic Burning Man street signs, beautifully crafted, whimsical, and apparently irresistible to some attendees.
They vanish faster than a plate of free cheese puffs at a rave.
So true.
Some people see it as a harmless prank, a souvenir, a way to bring a piece of that playa magic home.
Right, the little piece of the burn. But it raises an interesting question, doesn't it?
It does.
At what point does a quirky tradition become detrimental to the experience?
Especially during something like a whiteout.
Oh, yeah. Imagine being disoriented in a blinding dust storm. Landmarks are useless, and those street signs, which could have guided you back to camp, gone.
Poof. And the threads are full of passionate pleas from people who rely on those signs. People with mobility issues, first-timers overwhelmed by the sheer scale of Black Rock City. Even veteran burners who just want to find their way back to camp after a long night.
Right, it's dark out there.
It is. And the irony isn't lost on them. This stealing directly contradicts the communal responsibility Burning Man is built on.
Totally. But then on the other hand, some folks are like, navigating by landmark stars, intuition. That's part of the adventure.
Part of the challenge.
Right. The ever-changing landscape adds to the disorientation, the sense of discovery.
One veteran burner put it bluntly. If you haven't learned to navigate without signs, oh well. It's called radical self-reliance.
Ouch.
Tough love. But it raises the question, where's the line? Does that self-reliance come at the cost of accessibility and safety for others?
It's like this microcosm of Burning Man's internal struggle, balancing individual expression with collective responsibility.
It's a constant dance, isn't it?
It is. And it seems like Even amidst the frustration, there's this desire to find solutions. Some people suggested making extra signs, encouraging people to wait until after the burn to collect their souvenirs.
It shows a real commitment to making this experience work for everyone, which I think is beautiful.
It is. Speaking of making things work or not, our next Reddit rabbit hole revolves around a Burning Man staple that could either make your day or ruin your night. The megaphone.
Oh, the megaphone. That's a dangerous one.
It is. The instrument of witty banter, questionable song dedications.
And late-night pronouncements that probably sounded brilliant at the time.
Exactly. It's Burning Man's sonic wildcard. This specific thread we tumbled into centers around this mysterious figure known only as Armando. And from the sounds of it, he pushed the limits of megaphone etiquette, even for Burning Man.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about Armando.
One burner described his music as like the most obnoxiously atonal phone-dialing rooster sets they'd ever heard.
Wow. Phone-dialing roosters, that's a new one.
Right. Another suggested a megaphone intervention squad.
I mean, at a certain point, you got to do what you got to do.
Right. It's amazing how quickly a sound can go from, like, fun to fight or flight in the desert.
Yeah, absolutely. The desert changes how you experience everything, sound especially.
Totally. But this whole Armando situation, it sparked a broader conversation, too. That line between playful heckling and just straight-up sonic assault.
And the yearning for some good megaphone etiquette, which apparently is a thing.
Right. Like, there are unwritten rules even in the chaos. One burner was reminiscing about the days when megaphone humor was, like, actually clever. Less about tired tropes and more about riffing on the energy of the playa.
It's an art form, a respect for the shared space, which, let's be honest, not everyone at Burning Man remembers.
Sadly true. And it's interesting how this one object, the megaphone,
This one little tool,
it becomes this symbol for all these anxieties about noise pollution, consent, even how the demographics of Burning Man are shifting.
it's like how much weirdness is too much, even in a place built on it.
Right, we're all here for the weirdness, but there's a spectrum, you know.
A spectrum with edges, definitely.
And Armando seems to have wandered off the edge of the map with that megaphone.
Definitely. But here's the thing. Even amidst the rants and frustration, this thread also highlights the community's resilience. People were sharing genuinely funny megaphone encounters, tips for responsible amplification. Someone even suggested megaphone etiquette 101 workshops.
Only at Burning Man.
Only at Burning Man.
It's a commitment to problem solving, finding the humor, even when someone's blasting experimental electronica at 3 a.m. It's kind of amazing.
It really is. It speaks to the heart of this whole grand experiment, this ongoing attempt to create a world that embraces both the sublime and the ridiculous.
And sometimes that includes a guy named Armando shouting into a megaphone at sunrise.
You gotta love it.
From one extreme to another, right? Our next dive takes us away from the playa and into a controversy brewing around Loveburn.
Ah, Loveburn, the Miami spinoff.
Right, this one got heated. Accusations flying faster than a dust devil in a windstorm.
It's true. Loveburn's known for its beach vibes, its accessibility, but it found itself in hot water with the Burning Man organization, facing potential excommunication.
Yeah, talk about a plot twist.
Right.
It started with this official notice from Burning Man, outlining some serious concerns about Loveburn's operations. And people had a lot to say about it.
Oh yeah, the peanut gallery was out in full force.
So the notice highlighted allegations of financial opacity.
Meaning
There's a lack of transparency about how Loveburn manages its money, which for an event built on principles like radical self-reliance and communal effort.
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal.
Huge deal. And some burners were quick to point out the steep ticket prices. Over $600 after fees.
Whoa, that's a chunk of change.
It is. And they were questioning where all that money goes, especially since Loveburn is way shorter than the main event.
It's like a week versus a long weekend, right?
Right. So that financial side is crucial to how Burning Man functions.
Transparency is key.
Then there's the critique of Loveburn's reliance on plug-and-play camps.
Those pre-packaged experiences.
Exactly. While appealing to some, they kind of contradict that whole ethos of self-reliance.
It takes this pay-to-play vibe, excluding those who can't afford the luxury version.
It's like the difference between roughing it and showing up to a fully catered glamping experience.
Not quite the Burning Man spirit.
Right. And the controversy doesn't stop there. The notice called out Loveburn for relaxed safety standards, too. Mentioned incidents like fireworks going off during the temple burn.
Whoa, hold up. Fireworks during the temple burn? That's a huge no-no.
Massive safety risk.
Yeah.
And deeply disrespectful given the significance of the temple.
It's like the heart of Burning Man. When that's perceived as compromised, it impacts the entire community.
For sure. The notice even suggested that Loveburn had strayed too far from those core principles, becoming more of a commercialized party than a community-driven experience.
Ouch. That's a tough pill to swallow.
It is. But Loveburn's defenders weren't backing down.
They came out swinging.
Oh yeah, their argument. Loveburn provides a unique and accessible entry point into Burning Man culture, particularly for those who can't swing the Nevada desert trip.
Which is a valid point. Not everyone can make it out to the playa.
Exactly. They stressed its strong sense of community, the support for local artists, and how it brings radical self-expression to a region that's not exactly known for it.
They're bringing the burn to a whole new crowd, which has its own value.
Right. And some pointed out the logistical hurdles of hosting a large-scale event in a state park near a major city. Permit costs, regulations. It's a whole different ballgame than the open playa.
Completely different context.
They also highlighted Loveburn's incredible art installations, argued that their financial model lets them support ambitious projects that other regionals can't. And it's true. The art is a huge part of the experience.
Huge.
So this whole debate, it became this microcosm of Burning Man's evolution. How do you maintain those core principles while adapting to new places, new people?
It's that tension between preserving the soul of Burning Man and recognizing that as it spreads, it's going to morph and change.
It's going to grow.
And growing pains are never fun.
They're not. And Loveburn's potential excommunication, it raises those big questions. What defines a burn? Who gets to decide? How does the organization handle growth without losing its heart?
It's a tough one.
It is. It shows that even in a world built on radical inclusion, there are still boundaries, growing pains, evolving definitions of belonging.
And sometimes those growing pains involve some tough choices.
Speaking of tough choices, our next deep dive centers on a situation that really put Burning Man's ethos to the test.
This one's emotionally charged. A single mother arrived at this year's Burning Man woefully unprepared, with a toddler and a dog in tow.
Oh, boy.
It sparked a whirlwind of reactions concerned judgment, empathy, even anger.
It was like the thread that exploded the internet.
I bet.
It was like a crash course in the complexities of radical self-reliance, compassion, and what it means to support your community, especially when resources are already stretched thin.
Yeah, you're talking about a delicate balance in a harsh environment.
Exactly. So the story itself is simple, but the implications, not so much. This mother shows up with minimal supplies.
Minimal.
A 2-year-old child, a dog. And it's clear she's not ready for the playa.
Like, not even a little bit.
Not even close.
Yeah.
We're talking limited food, inadequate shelter, no real understanding of Burning Man's culture or basic safety protocols. And keep in mind, this is an environment that can go from scorching hot to freezing cold in a matter of hours, with sudden dust storms that could swallow you whole.
Yeah, you don't mess around with the elements out there.
You don't. It's not a place for the unprepared, especially not with a small child.
And that's where I imagine the debate gets going.
Oh, it explodes. Some burners, their hearts went straight to that mother and child, offered food supplies advice, embodying that Burning Man spirit of radical generosity.
Which is beautiful to see.
It is. But others, they saw a reckless disregard for that child's well-being, a violation of that self-reliance principle.
And a burden placed on a community that's already stretched thin.
Exactly. It becomes this microcosm of societal debates we have all the time. Personal responsibility versus systemic inequalities, the limits of community support.
It's never simple, is it?
Never. Some argued she should have known better, that bringing a toddler A&D, a dog, was irresponsible.
Especially the dog. There are pretty strict rules about pets at Burning Man.
Right. For safety and sanitation reasons.
It's understandable why they're strict.
Totally. So that just added fuel to the fire.
Oh, I bet.
But then some burners pushed back against the judgment. They highlighted the realities of poverty, the lack of affordable childcare.
The impossible choices single mothers often face.
Exactly. And they were saying, hold on. Judging her without knowing her circumstances helps no one. Maybe compassion and understanding are more powerful tools.
Especially at Burning Man.
Especially at Burning Man.
Right.
And that's where it gets even more complex. It turns out a social worker, also attending Burning Man, got called in to assess the situation.
Whoa, talk about a Burning Man curveball.
Right.
Suddenly, you're grappling with professional ethics in a temporary self-governing community. Where's the line between offering help as a fellow burner and intervening in a professional capacity?
Right. Do you leave work at the door when the event itself is about embracing your authentic self, connecting with others?
But also, if someone's well-being is at stake, especially a child's, is that even possible?
It's an ethical puzzle with no easy answers.
And of course, the thread never really reaches a consensus, but it showcases those inherent contradictions within Burning Man. The struggle to reconcile individual freedom with the responsibility to protect the vulnerable.
It's a stark reminder that even in a temporary utopia, real-world issues don't disappear. Poverty, inequality, the struggle to support families.
They manifest in complex ways, challenging us to confront our own biases, assumptions, and capacity for compassion.
Even amidst the art cars and dance parties.
Even then.
And speaking of confronting uncomfortable realities, our next thread deals with a deeply disturbing allegation that rocked the Burning Man community. An accusation of sexual assault against a former ranger. Wow, this one's heavy. It's a stark reminder that even in a space designed to be like a haven from the default world, those difficult realities, they don't just disappear.
It's true, and this particular story, it cuts to the core of Burning Man's principles, forcing the community to confront a truly difficult question. How do you address serious accusations within a decentralized temporary society? A society that prides itself on radical inclusion and personal accountability.
Right, it's a tough one. The thread starts with this direct accusation. A former ranger, someone who's supposed to be a guardian of the community, is accused of being a rapist.
Oh, wow.
The poster urges other potential victims to come forward, claiming that there's evidence out there, though details are scarce.
And the reactions were probably all over the place.
Oh, yeah, you see the whole gamut. There's shocked disbelief, some sharing their own experiences of feeling unsafe around this individual. Others immediately call for action from the Burning Man organization. There's this real sense of urgency, a demand for accountability.
Which is understandable given the seriousness of the allegation.
Right. But here's where the limitations of Burning Man's structure become really apparent. There's no police force in the traditional sense, no courts. The organization relies heavily on volunteers, many of whom are grappling with these accusations themselves.
So it's a system that's built for consensus and mediation, not for investigating and prosecuting serious crimes.
Exactly. Some burners pointed to the Doing It Wrong at burningman.org email address that system for reporting problems at the event.
Right. I remember seeing that on posters around the playa.
But there's this skepticism about its effectiveness. You know, this worry that serious reports just get lost in the shuffle.
Like, does hitting send actually do anything in a temporary city of 70,000 people?
Right. And one burner who claimed to have worked for the organization actually chimed in, shedding some light on how it actually works.
Oh, that's interesting.
They said it's not just some digital black hole.
Thank goodness.
Right. They explained that the address is like a central dispatch. Complaints get routed to the appropriate team based on the issue. But even they acknowledge that it's not perfect. Investigations take time, and it's often impossible to give detailed updates to everyone who submits a report.
Which, again, for those who've experienced harm, that waiting for answers for action, it can be incredibly disheartening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've got this tension between this desire for immediate action, the need for due process, and the limitations of what a volunteer-run organization can realistically achieve.
It's a lot to balance.
It is. And that's where the conversation gets really interesting. It becomes this debate about how to balance individual rights with the safety of the community as a whole.
Right. Like, should Burning Man implement a more thorough vetting process for volunteers? Create a more transparent system for handling complaints?
But then you have the flip side. Those measures, while well-intentioned, they could contradict the very spirit of Burning Man.
Yeah, radical inclusion by its nature involves a certain degree of risk. Start implementing background checks, stricter rules. You risk creating an environment of fear and suspicion.
It's a tough one.
It's that tightrope Burning Man has to walk. How do you hold space for both the beauty of radical freedom and the need for safety accountability? And this thread, as difficult as it is to confront it, highlights that there are no easy answers.
There really aren't. It's an ongoing conversation and one that every community, temporary or not, has to grapple with.
Absolutely.
But amidst the weight of this topic, there's a glimmer of hope, too.
Oh, yeah.
Several burners recognizing the limitations of the official systems, they stepped up to offer more immediate support.
That's amazing to hear.
Mentions of Rampart Zendo.
Yeah.
These are those dedicated spaces at Burning Man that offer emotional support, crisis intervention, even medical care. And then you had individual burners, self-described safety pin warriors, offering their camps as safe spaces for anyone feeling vulnerable or threatened.
It's a reminder that even within the larger challenges, there are still individuals, smaller communities working to create a safety net. It doesn't erase the bigger issues, but it shows the strength of human compassion, that desire to look out for one another. That's also very much a part of Burning Man.
It speaks to the resilience of the human spirit, even in the face of disappointment or harm.
That refusal to let darkness extinguish the light.
It's powerful stuff.
It really is.
Well, on that note, I think we've successfully navigated our way through this deep dive into the heart of Burning Man.
From porta potty etiquette to allegations of sexual assault, it's been quite a ride.
It has, and for those of you listening, whether you're seasoned burners or just Burning Man curious, we hope this deep dive has given you a taste of what this event, this community is really all about.
The beauty, the chaos, contradictions, that unwavering commitment to creating something meaningful, even if it's just for a week in the middle of the desert.
Because ultimately, that's the enduring power of Burning Man, isn't it? This reflection of ourselves, our highest aspirations, and our messiest realities all rolled into one unforgettable experience.
It's a reminder that even in a temporary world, the human experience is what we make it.
So go out there, build your own fires, challenge your assumptions, and never stop exploring the edges of what's possible.
And maybe, just maybe, pack a backup navigation method in case those street signs disappear.
Always good advice. Until next time, keep those fires burning, both literally and metaphorically.